Welcome to this degenerate Friday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest. Very happy to have you guys with us. We're going to dive into some college football here, and there's some ominous signs already being revealed and unveiled about the college basketball season. We welcome to the show. You know where I'm going with that. It's really just a softball I'm going to lob up there for you. But
I mean,
the
we're
professor
we're
is with us. The professor.
we're having a week, right? We
Yeah.
start after we talked last week with this Mark Sanchez story breaking,
Yes.
which I think we could do an hour just on that. Like former professional quarterback turned announcer, I think he's in his 30s, like loses a fight to a 68-year-old grease man and gets stabbed in the process,
Unbelievable.
and then arrested because he's the one who started the fight. I mean, wow.
Didn't that reek of angel dust or some kind of Mickey being slipped in a cocktail? It just everybody that knew Mark Sanchez, I believe he's 38 years old, said that this was so far out of whack, out of character for him to do
See,
something.
I don't know that I agree with that. I know, as you know, I used to work with a recruiting guy who went to USC with him,
Okay.
and the scouting report we always got was couldn't handle the sauce. That
Oh,
Brees back in his USC days, anytime he got a couple of pops into him, he turned into a real asshole. So,
yeah. Okay. So
I
maybe
mean,
that's what put him over the top. I mean,
yeah,
it's a hideous story, and the truth is, as much attention as Sanchez got, and he was subsequently arrested and charged with a couple of misdemeanors and a felony. The guy he attacked, the poor 69-year-old schmuck who's just doing his
it's a
overnight
grease
job,
guy, right?
trying to make a living, ended up, unfortunately for him, he was the one that had the knife, but he ended up getting like an Al Capone like scar slash on his face.
I saw that. Yeah.
And, yeah, he certainly caught the worst of it, even though it was Sanchez reported in the hospital as being stabbed, which he was. He apparently came out of it in far better shape than the other guy. So,
And
ugly
then
story.
we go from that to like middle of the week this week. We find out it seems like it's very likely Bill Belichick's not going to make it through even year one
Yeah.
at North Carolina, and may not make it to next week from everything I'm reading, if they can get a buyout worked out there. Which leads me to the question: if you're Bill Belichick, and this whole thing with your girlfriend has now kind of made you a laughing stock. I mean, I realize that 24-year-olds aren't just running around coming up to you all the time when you're his age,
Sure.
but at some point, like, don't you kind of think it's time for her to hit the road? I mean, I know you're heavily invested. Pablo Torres reported you've already bought like $10 million worth of houses for her, but like, you got to have some sense of embarrassment at some point, right?
Well, he's well below the formula that I believe is as solid as any theory that I've ever come up with or embraced, and that is the breakdown on how low you should go when you're an older guy in terms of chasing younger women. And the Mendoza line formula would be you take your age, divide it in two. So in my case, I'm 74. I divide that into 37 and add 7 years. And don't ask me why. It's an arbitrary thing pulled out of the sky. But when you do it, the formula is absolutely pristine. So the lowest woman I should be pursuing would be 44 years old. So, and Belichick's in the same category. So he's 20 years below the Mendoza line. I mean, this woman could be his granddaughter, for God's sake. So,
I mean, I'm not even going to get into the age thing because different people have different opinions on that. I'm just saying,
I guess the money, it's like
like, at
half a
some
point.
point, it's got to become a humiliation, right? Like, again, it's not that you're just getting your ass kicked in football games, because that happens to tons of great. I mean, look, there have been tons of great coaches who've had bad endings. We could run down the list of guys. Obviously Paterno would probably be like the bottom.
Woody Hayes
Um,
was
but
sad.
yeah, I mean, Bobby Bowden took it on the chin a bunch of times in later years. I mean, that's not the thing. The thing with this is it's become a national embarrassment, and it seems a lot of it is the fact that like she has to force her way into the story over and over again. I would think at some point, even though, like I said, you put a lot of money up front into this, you might want to cut bait here.
It's not like Beverly Schnellenberger coming down on the sidelines there to accompany Howard as he's getting a last second touchdown over East Carolina to preserve their
Well,
chance.
okay, here's the thing. I've had a bunch of people who, in response to this question, like, "Oh no, Bill Belichick's legacy is cemented. He's always going to be known as the greatest NFL coach of all time." But is he? Like, I feel like if your post glory days are bad enough, you don't get remembered for the glory. The example I keep using is if you had gone 10 years ago, despite a number of off the field things, Brett Favre's legacy would have been Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner, NFL legend, record holder. But flash forward 10 years, and Brett Favre is, pervert who stole welfare money. And I would say at this point,
But
that's
nobody remembers Michael with the Wizards, Michael Jordan. I mean, when
maybe.
they're looking at his track record and claim to being the greatest of all time, you just don't remember that he was a shell of himself when he came back there and was playing for Leonard
I mean,
Hamilton.
that's one route. But again, part of that is the fact that even though he wasn't great with the Wizards, there weren't like a lot of super embarrassments. Like, I
No,
think
wasn't
if
like he
Michael Jordan hadn't come back the second time and he had played baseball for like 10 years and been a super huge embarrassment, maybe we remember him as like, guy who couldn't hit a curveball and went 190 and pissed away the back half of his basketball career on some dumb baseball dream. But he cut that short. He came back. He won more titles. Whereas this is, like I said, it's an off the field humiliation, but it is, I would say, at the point where it's getting humiliating.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question to me. And then obviously that leads up to
I,
today.
I did want to amend that Mendoza line thing because when you factor in tens of millions of dollars, it really is like buying a half a point
Yeah.
in a college football game. I mean, the fact that the age differential
I don't know if it buys you down to 24, but
it's a hard equation to make, but yeah, it'd be like
yeah,
buying 7 points in a football game, I would say, and he can afford it. All right, so this one
it's a
though has
decent.
an impact on the upcoming college basketball season, I would think. No, this latest development.
I mean, the patron saint of annoying Cinderella teams has passed on.
Yes,
Sister Jean, who I was not a big fan of. I always seem to end up on the wrong side of Loyola games when
this
Sister
was
Jean
not
got
one of your more popular
right.
opinions. Although we were investigating Sister Jean to see if she was the same Sister Jean who had Jeannie's Hideaway out in outside of Reno, a cheesy brothel that supposedly there was some connection with her way back in the past, and you heard nothing about it. I mean, the press was covering this up
That's
massively.
interesting.
Yes, but if you go
Yeah,
back,
I don't know if I would want to be the reporter who broke that one as beloved as she was. Like, I
106,
don't feel like that's going well for you.
that's a good number though. To make it to a $1.06. No, I mean, I don't know that everybody gets there in good shape, but she seemed to be pretty coherent and having a great time, laughing right to the wire.
I mean, if it is, if you're enjoying it, I don't know if I would want to, go to 106. But if you're liking it,
Yeah, no, it's good. So, what do you think? I mean, like you said, she was
and I'm
the
a little creeped out
mascot for
because
all
my
Cinderella.
light started flashing the minute we started talking about Sister
I
Jean.
mean,
So there might
you know, God has
might be some
ways.
poltergeists
Yeah,
in.
I think that's from the gods of gambling sending you a message that perhaps many of your parlays will be. Well, you don't bet parlays because you realize that
Get on the right side of Sister Jean, I think is what's telling us.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe you ought to skip over this one. But what were your thoughts on the Sister Jean departure?
I mean, I'm surprised it didn't happen like 10 years ago. I mean, 106. You're not
Yeah, you had the under on Sister Jean.
if literally anybody, if someone gives you 105 and a half as the
Well,
number,
having a hook and you
you're
lose.
going under, right? Like, I don't think anybody can really expect 106, particularly if you're like the patron saint of Loyola basketball, because there's been some stressful moments around along the way
Sure.
with that program. So
I remember a
I
guy coming up to me at the track and suggesting that I get involved. I guess this is a business that still exists and people take part in. But the deal was that you were basically buying people's life insurance policy early on.
yes, vulture, the ultimate in vulture capitalism. I
And the guy would come to me at the bar at the track and he'd show me, look at this guy, 83 years old. He's got cancer in every organ in his body. He's got this, he's got that. It's 20,000. He's got 50,000 worth of insurance, and there's no chance he makes it past tomorrow. And then, of course, the guy goes on and
hangs
outlives
around another 10
everybody.
years. Yeah, outlives the policy.
Yeah, that was the way. It was like Fred Hooper was a famous horseman who had a Kentucky Derby winner with Needles, was the first Florida bred ever to win a Kentucky Derby. He was a very venerable guy, a decent guy. I got to know him a little bit. But he ended up marrying, like when he was in his 80s, a woman who was a flight attendant who was taking care of him on one of his private jets. And I believe her name was Wanda, and a very attractive young lady. And you were thinking, well, geez, she only married a guy because he's going to check out sometime in the next 3, 4 years. He may have outlived her. Man, this guy went on forever. So the Sister Jean syndrome, if you're waiting for somebody to die, and especially if you're betting on it with those life insurance policies, it doesn't always work out as favorably as you might think. All right, living and dying with college football, Professor. The marquee game, I don't know if it's going to be one of your selections, though, seems to be Texas and Oklahoma. And that's been a wild story because now listed as probable is one John Mateer, which seems to be at the very root of the line makers' thinking in this ball game. The line was relatively short, I thought, without Mateer in there when he was listed as questionable. Now that he's probable, I think it's stuck at about the same. What do we have? Is Texas still favored in this ball game by a point?
I'm showing Oklahoma -1 and a hook now, so you're
Oh,
talking about 3.5 point movement. Texas hung around at like -2.5 most of the week. I'm trying to remember who it was. One of the big names. I don't think it was Schefter, but someone of that level broke it on Twitter yesterday that Mateer was likely to play in this game,
okay.
and we're seeing the kind of number movement you would expect. It's not a game I want anything to do with,
All right.
although I would say precisely, by the way, because of Mateer's health. With a thumb, he could practice all week and then come out and hit a helmet on his first play and be done for the day.
Yeah.
Um, so I wouldn't really want to be involved in that because it's health related. I don't actually consider that the marquee game of the week. I think the marquee game of the week is Oregon and Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, I think honestly, after last week, we are now sort of stuck in a position with college football where we're pretty sure about Ohio State. We're pretty sure about Miami, both being good teams or very good teams, playoff teams. After that, I'm not so sure. Look, you were thinking Oregon coming into the week is definitely, playoff level, but then Penn State goes out and loses to UCLA, who was making a case for being the worst Power 5 team ever.
Wow.
And they lose to Penn State loses to them. They give up 42. Well, Oregon only scored 17 against Penn State in regulation the week before. So now you kind of got to look cross-eyed at Oregon. Indiana, beat Illinois like a baby seal a couple of weeks ago. That's sort of looking like a one-off because Indiana followed that up by not looking strong at Iowa. Probably should have lost the game to Iowa, but with their offensive incompetence, Iowa kind of blew the game at the very end there, and they gave up a long pass to lose. So all of a sudden, 3 versus 7 is kind of a prove it game on both sides. And I think if you look up and down, the top 10, top 15, top 20, you're looking at all sorts of teams who still have a lot to prove, at the not quite at the beginning of the midpoint of the season. So it makes for, a lot of very interesting games, a lot of very interesting schedules that you're not necessarily sure you want to get involved with from a picking a side. So we're probably going to go with some of the lesser marquee games this
All
week,
right.
simply because I don't know that the top of the marquee feels real certain. Like I said, outside of Ohio State and Miami, and even with Miami, somehow if you were laying 4.5 a game, you could not have dominated that game anymore for 3 quarters, but you got down to 20 seconds left, and if Norvell doesn't doesn't do the Mike Tice, you might not have covered the game. So, there's always that factor with Mario Cristobal teams.
The Cristobal factor has become, we've been talking about it, seems like all season and for the last couple of years. I mean, it's firmly entrenched now in the vernacular, the language of any degenerate gambler. It must be considered. I think it's one of the most feared factors in all of gambling at this point. The Cristobal.
Anyway,
How,
so
how, how could he even be in jeopardy in that game? What was beyond comprehension. All right, what do you have this week, Professor?
All right, we're going to start
Here we go.
tonight, which is Fresno State and Colorado State. Colorado State looks like a complete dumpster fire at this point in the season after giving up 45 to a San Diego State team that is not particularly strong. Look at the rest of their schedule. They lost to UTSA, who was awful. They lost to a very mediocre Washington State team. They did beat Northern Colorado, but only by 21-17. And they got clubbed by Washington. Fresno State, on the other hand, after we took a tough week 1 with them against Kansas, where their defense gave up all the points in the world, they have really bounced back. They handled Georgia Southern. They handled Oregon State. They got 2 wins in a row over Hawaii. Never an easy road trip to go to Hawaii and Nevada. They're laying 6.5 here, and I think they look like a very prime spot. As we talked in the early part of the season, Kurt Warner's kid is their quarterback, and he's sort of turned into the guy you want to be throwing a few too many picks in the first couple games, but after that, he's bounced back. He's completing, I think, 73% of his passes, which is the kind of efficiency you want. And they've discovered a running game with a sort of a split backfield there with Donaldson and Luke. So Fresno State looking like a very strong entry from the Mountain West at this point, and laying a thin line to one of the worst teams in the Mountain West in Colorado. Well, not a thin line, but a less than a touchdown line. So we'll take Fresno State -6 in the hook tonight.
All right, Fresno State to start us out, laying 6.5, playing some decent football against a very ragtag Colorado State team. Where else are you going, Professor, this week?
That's going to take us tomorrow afternoon. We're actually going to skip the noon slate and the features in the 3:30 slate and go to Iowa and pick on a team that's we've done well picking on all year long. Iowa State comes off a tough loss we took last week against Cincinnati, where Cincinnati's offense was really on point throughout that game. Cincinnati sort of announced themselves as a fringe contender in the Big 12 with that game. Iowa State going to Colorado, only laying 2.5. I have no idea, other than just public mania for the Colorado Buffaloes, why this, for the life of me, this game would be 2.5. Colorado is not a good football team. Last outing, which was, I don't think it was 2 full weeks ago, was it? No, it was last week. Yeah, they lost to TCU by 2 scores. Week before that, lost to BYU. They did beat Wyoming earlier in the year, and they beaten Delaware, which is Delaware. How first season in 1A, how impressive that can be. I don't know why, for the life of me, this game would be under a field goal. I feel like Iowa State's going to win this one relatively easy. We will lay the 2.5 all day long. And that would be our big one of the week, which is Iowa State laying the 2.5 is what we're currently showing against Colorado.
It's amazing how everybody keeps going back as if it was, when Deion rattled off the 4 wins in a row or whatever that was at the beginning of his tenure there. And everybody was talking about him as if he was the second coming of Lombardi. And it seems like it's kind of like the Ravens defense. Everybody has been all over the Ravens getting clobbered this year, and they're giving up 40 points a game. It's not 2000 anymore. And that quick start that Deion had is a long time ago. So I'm with you. I mean, for some reason, everybody's giving Colorado way more credit than they deserve. So that looks like a pretty good spot. Iowa State laying 2.5 against Colorado on the road.
Another team we picked on a little bit in the early part of the season, we're going back to, against one of the subtly underrated against the spread teams in the country, and that's Maryland, catching 6.5 at home from Nebraska in this one. Maryland, of course, last week did have a tough loss against Washington, a game they probably should have won, ended up losing 24-20. Facing Nebraska this week, getting 6.5 at home. I think the Terps will have a chance to win this game outright. We'll see if that part plays out. But at 6.5, I think they look like a no-brainer here. Again, don't like Nebraska's offense. You saw it against Michigan a couple weeks ago. For all the Raiola hype and Matt Rule's got this team on the right track, blah, 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 blah. They haven't impressed me at any point in the year. I will still go against them. And again, Maryland's a team you should have kept your eye on to this point in the season because they have been very good against the number.
All right. We got 3 of them in the books here. Laying points with Fresno State, 6.5 against Colorado State. Iowa State laying 2.5 against Colorado. And Nebraska is laying 6.5 to a Maryland team that the professor thinks is the way to go in that ball game. Anything else to round out the card?
Last one, 7 o'clock, Death Valley. We're taking South Carolina plus the 9.5. South Carolina, of course, has lost 2 of their last 3. They lost to Vandy. Sellers got hurt. Sellers came back the next week, played pretty well, but wasn't enough against Missouri. Then they beat up on Kentucky last week. LSU, we've seen them. They're a very good defensive team, but their offense, they cannot run the football whatsoever. They're entirely dependent on Nussmeier. And I think South Carolina will manage to get some pass rush in that situation if they don't have to worry about playing against a balanced team. Talking an LSU team that is currently 119th in the country running the football. Overall, their offense is not particularly good, 83rd in the country. South Carolina, of course, has had their own offensive problems, but a lot of that has to do with Sellers missing, almost a full game early in the season that's going to drive the numbers down there. But he's healthy. And again, I look for a low score defensive shootout where I'm now catching above a touchdown at 9.5. I will take that all day long. Give me South Carolina plus the 9.5.
All right, there's a quartet of games for you from the professor. South Carolina getting 9.5 to round it out. Maryland getting 6.5 in their ball game against Nebraska. Iowa State laying 2.5 on Colorado, and Fresno State minus 6.5 tonight against Colorado State. Any thoughts, Professor? Just out of curiosity on USC and Michigan. Have you taken a look at that game at all?
I did, and boy, here's the thing: you can't at this moment really take Michigan to win a shootout, and USC has managed to score against everybody. That leads me a little bit toward USC. I don't know what at 2.5 how great I feel about it. I probably would pass, but right now, I mean the numbers are telling you what they think of this game because the total's 56.5. They're looking to see a bunch of points in this game, and I don't know that that's a favorable scenario for you. I mean, I think Michigan is a better version of what they were last year. They're a running team that plays defense. They've had some good moments with Underwood but he's still a true freshman who's very raw. And I don't know how great I'd feel about going into a shootout game in that situation, particularly given that Underwood's problem is that he's not particularly efficient in the passing game, completing less than 60% of his passes.
What's your feeling in general about? Okay, you had two examples of this where you had a team that suffered. Well, in the case of Penn State, an embarrassing loss. In the case of Florida State, I don't know that the loss wasn't anticipated, but the fact that they were handled so easily early in the ball game, I guess, was. And both these teams come back and lay double-digit points in their next ball game. Penn State is laying 22.5 to Northwestern, and Florida State is laying 10.5 to Pittsburgh. What's your feeling about that? Teams that suffer either important, vital losses, I guess that would be more of a springboard for success, laying 10.5 than being embarrassed like Penn State was. Games to stay out of, or
first of all, I would say stay out of both of them because all of a sudden Pitt, with their new quarterback, looks a little revitalized, coming off that crushing of BC. That said, I was impressed with the way Florida State kept fighting in the fourth quarter of a game that would have been very easy for them to just lay down. And, even though they hung 19 points, like the Hurricanes made them work for it. Like,
yes,
the first drive was like 10 or 12 plays to go 47 yards. Then they came back with a 20-play drive. So it wasn't like, Hurricane defensive backs were running into each other and some guy went 90 yards for a fluke.
Sure.
They were so you have to be impressed with the way Florida State fought back in that one, even though, really it was never a game where the outcome was in doubt against the spread maybe, but not, the real outcome. As opposed to Penn State where like, I don't know what the answer is, honestly, for Penn State. Like if you were going to cut Drew Aller loose and say, okay, this is the game we're going to let this kid who, everybody thought all the world of coming into the season is going to throw for it. You would have thought it would have been against, a rotten UCLA team last week. That didn't happen. I wouldn't lay 22.5. I mean, I know Franklin's, generally speaking, against the number, very good against bad teams. North of 3 touchdowns coming on. I mean, Penn State's in that situation. Like, are they going to rally back or are they going to just, pop the balloon and the season's going to go real bad? I would kind of lean towards the latter. I mean,
that's the way it looks.
I mean, I don't see where the turnaround is going to come from if you're Penn State. Particularly, again, up until last week, there were a lot of people asking the question, is UCLA the worst power conference team ever?
Wow.
The way they looked early in the season.
They fired their coach. They brought in Neuheisel's kid as offensive coordinator. All of a sudden,
who looks like his clone. Like that.
Yeah, I thought it was
much like his dad. I was like, okay. Like, because if any coach was going to, clone himself, Rick Neuheisel would be a strong candidate.
I always kind of liked Neuheisel ever since he did that song about being in the SEC. Like, what is it? What was that thing that he did, that parody song?
Oh, I thought you would like him because he did the what did he win, like $10,000 pools in the tournament back?
Oh yeah, no, he was big with that. But
he was like the Phil Mickelson of coaching.
Yeah, if you ever hear him do the rendition or see it on YouTube of "Born in the SEC," it's absolutely classic. All right, Professor. So we have a 4-pack of games from the Professor here for your college football wagering entertainment. Fresno State gets it going tonight. Hopefully, we're winning that one. -6 and a hook, -2.5 with Iowa State over Colorado. Maryland getting 6.5 from Nebraska, maybe even a win outright. I guess you suggested maybe a little
Yes.
on the money line, and then. South Carolina getting 9.5 now from LSU, an LSU team that does seem to be a little bit scoring challenged. So to see them routing this South Carolina team maybe is a little less conceivable than the idea that the 9.5 points are going to be advantageous to you in making a little bit of a score. Good luck with everything. I know you'll probably be zeroing in on that WNBA Game 4 between the
Yeah, it's a big one.
Aces and the Mercury. I think that's tonight. So watch your prop bets on that. And thanks as always for being with us.
By the way, we never said it all week long. Good job, Luby. If the kid was going to
Oh,
come
yeah.
early, like the week of the WNBA, so we could avoid talking about that, the week of the WNBA finals was excellent timing on the part of one Luka Lubitz.
Our good friend Mike Lubitz, who you guys may remember from a show that we did prior to this one's beginnings and origins, morning briefing, had a baby, but the kid's already buried me. I had the first week of November as the earliest that the kid would be born. And I had over 6 and a hook because, and this probably was a dumb factor to include in the equation in terms of the weight, because of the way Luby eats on this food show that we do. I'm thinking it probably rubbed off on Shirley a little bit, all those leftovers that he comes to the or takes out of the restaurants that we go to. And so I went with a heavier kid and born a few weeks early. So that
Yeah,
compromise.
I don't know if I would have gone with the
Is that
overall
taken
weight.
off the board though? The premature birth, slightly.
No, I don't think so.
What are the parameters on that? Is it anything like to do abortion laws? I mean, where after what after 3 weeks, all bets are off. I don't know.
Oh, I would think they're on, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're both small people, so I don't. I think the going over the weight, over on the weight, was probably just
I just figured
overthinking it on your
six
part.
and a half wasn't too much to lay there. I mean, what's the average weight of a newborn child? Like
Yeah,
7?
but like Tom Cruise, I mean, Luby's like Tom Cruise sized,
Yeah,
and Shirley's even smaller. So like, I don't feel like that kid wasn't going to be Andre the Giant.
it's already a burial for me. This kid's already costing me money. Never mind the baby shower. All right, Professor. Yeah, congratulations in order. Our good friend Mike Lubitz, like a son of me, produced a lot of years of radio shows for me, and still involved in our streaming enterprises. And as a kid, so we've been off a couple of our other shows, and it may have prevented and precluded the big board from being part of this one. But
Yeah, but it also, like I said, it also got you out of a week of talking about the WNBA finals. So
imagine that. Yeah, I was all over the baseball. I really enjoy playoff baseball. I know you're not a big fan of baseball, but if you were ever going to watch it, this would be the time.
you know what? I tried. I watched.
A little league play cost the Phillies any chance
What
they
was
had.
the? It was Seattle Detroit. I think it was Game 3 where they had a weather delay,
Yes.
like 3 hours, and then they came back, and the first batter of the game, they stopped for a replay about was the guy safe or was the guy out, and they stopped the game for like 10 minutes and then reversed the call. When I thought the guy was pretty clearly safe on the replays.
Yeah.
But the main thing, I don't remember whether it was college football or NFL when they first introduced replay a few years ago. Put a 2-minute time limit on it, and it was just after 2 minutes, we turn the cameras off and there's no more replay. I think all sports need to go back to that, because if you don't know in the first 2 minutes, then
know.
it's not clear and obvious. Like,
yeah.
you stick with if you can't tell in 2 minutes, stick with the call on the field.
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, to drag that out for like a half an hour and then make the wrong call.
Exactly.
When it's finally Zapruder film like clear cut, hey, that was another guy. It wasn't just Lee. And sure enough, they go ahead and make the wrong call anyway. It's god awful. All right, excellent stuff, Professor. I'll talk to you again next week right here on Bury Your Bookie. Thanks so much for being with us. Everybody, good luck with your plays over the weekend. A lot of interesting college and pro football. Hopefully we gave you some ideas. And we'll see you Monday morning with the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.
See you guys.